Okay, here we are recording our first ever Neighbours Day festival Zoom, the festival Zoom. We've got Craig here from Massey Matters with us.
Hello.
And Craig is going to be talking to us about his sort of community-led development approach to working with this brand new world. So Craig, do you want to tell us a little bit about Massey Matters and how you're responding?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, kia ora, everybody. So yes, I'm Craig. My job title is Community Activator at Massey Matters. So a little bit about the organisation. We're a not-for-profit community development organisation. We operate a couple of community hubs on behalf of council out in Massey. So our main one on Donbuck Road, and another one sort of more towards West Harbour. So we run a bunch of stuff out of there, including programs and initiatives and things, and also have those spaces available for people to hire. The other big part of my role is running events and doing community events and programs and things like that. Most of which has been put on hold, in very recent times. So yeah.
So a week ago, we were all probably debating whether small gatherings should go ahead or not. It was Friday. I actually know I was with you, Craig.
That's right.
And then suddenly we are in this whole world where we are in our own homes, and but there are still, as community development workers or people who are interested in our own neighbourhoods and connecting people, we're going to try new ways of doing things and using new platforms. And I mean, this is an example of that, but you've got some ideas in Massey around
Zoom meeting.
Something that you're doing, a radical challenge or something.
Rotary's doing one for you tonight at 7.
Oh, okay.
You'll need to answer that, Craig.
No, that wasn't me.
Do anything immediately.
So
Well, then and join in.
Yeah, so I think so the yes. So obviously now our organisation, we sort of knew that we had a sense that given that gatherings were getting smaller and smaller, and there were more and more restrictions happening, just at the start of the week, we decided to meet as a team on Monday and just sort of come up with some ideas about what that would mean for our organisation if we did go into lockdown, or if there was other stuff that we could do before that happened. I had to cancel a couple of the last of our street barbecue series. We ran a bunch of street barbecues across Massey where we had people come out, and we brought the barbecues and some sausages, and people came out and just interacted with each other at a sort of a hyper local level. So we cancelled the last of those, which was due to be last Sunday, just given the concerns. And then on Monday we met and came up with a bunch of ideas. I was really keen to just be radical with this because, you keep hearing this word unprecedented. It is an unprecedented time, and basically the business as usual stuff that we were doing, or the approaches that we'd taken before, I think weren't going to cut it, in this period of uncertainty. So we talked about a bunch of things. We talked about, whether we took our street barbecue format and adapted that into more of a drive-through sausage sizzle. So we would have, we'd use one of our hub car parks and set up a little barbecue there, and people would drive through and we'd give them food, and they'd go through like that. But then once the Prime Minister made the call that the country was going to be locked down, we had to basically think, look at the ideas that we'd come up with that were more isolated, or that would happen while we were being locked down. Yeah.
So what are some of those ideas?
A lot of online stuff basically is the crux of it. So there were things like, do we put a call out to people who have specific talents and see if they want to share some of those skills around, you know, on maybe through Zoom or through Facebook Live or something like that. You know, we could put a call out to people who were, you know, performers, you know, who would play a guitar or do some singing or something like that. Basically, lots of little tiny things that we could do to get people from Massey talking and interacting with other people in Massey, and I guess more broadly. All of that kind of culminated into this kind of project that we launched on Tuesday. So, you know, the day before the official kind of lockdown started. And this is a project that I've been running every day sort of since, and we've given it the title of just Massey Lockdown. On the Tuesday, I basically recorded a video on my phone. You know, I had written a little script, but I ended up just doing it in one take, where I said to people, look, you know, the call's been made that we're going to spend the next at least 4 weeks in our homes. So a big part of my role has changed, but I still want to keep people being connected, and you know, because I think that connection is more important at this time. But clearly we can't do what we had been doing in the past. So effectively what Massey Lockdown is a project where every day I'm just putting stuff on our Facebook page for people to do or think about or talk about. And encouraging people to get involved with that. So on the first day, I sort of explained what we were looking to do, and I asked a question. I said, you know, it's Tuesday. The country's going to be locked down from midnight tomorrow. So tell me, what are you kind of doing today? You know, what are your plans for the day? Are you already in isolation? Are you already, you know, are you going to be setting up your home office? Are you planning to work through? Are you going to be working in essential services, so you're preparing for that? Are you going to, you know, brave the supermarkets today? Are you, because we're based in West Auckland, you know, are you going to hit the liquor stores today? You know, I asked questions like that, and then tried to encourage people to sort of respond to those. And
what
share
sort of
ideas.
response did you get? Did you get a big take-up?
We got a few people, you know, responding to those. There was a bit of a take up. Lots of people, well, not lots of people, but you know, people indicated that they were interested in sort of following along with these day to day, which was cool. We got some people that were sharing details about some projects that they were going to be working on, and you know, things around the house that they were going to be doing. Yeah, it wasn't a massive sort of uptake on that first day, but we found that in, you know, the couple of days since, we're having more and more people sort of joining in on these conversations each day, and a lot of people are sort of reacting to that first post, you know, even, you know, 2 or 3 days out from uploading that.
Let's find out who else is in the Zoom and maybe what they were hoping to get out or contribute by being part of the Zoom. Is that okay? Would Bronwyn, Dave, or Adam? Dave's unmuted. You can go first.
Good afternoon. So I'm Dave Charnley. I'm the urban designer for Palmerston City Council. And I guess just with the change that's going on, I'm interested to be part of some of this online conversation. Firstly, for me, a lot of massive learning curve around tech and I guess the online applications that are out there to use. And I guess as a city, we're thinking about, I guess, the recovery phase of the city. So just really wanting to know at this stage how people are connecting, what are their, I guess, thoughts going on about their city currently, what are the new opportunities that could be sitting there for the city now that we've got perhaps a different treatment of the public realm. You know, not that I'm encouraging everyone to get out there and get close to each other, but, you know, looking at our streets now that we have the ability to look at them with, you know, things like less traffic around, what does that mean? And what could that be about, I guess, embedding that into recovery planning? So that's generally me.
Yeah, cool. Thank you. What about you, Adam?
Well, I work with Dave as well and Keegan, so I'm more here as an observer, but I might pass over if you had anything to add to that, Keegan, from a PNCC perspective. Can't hear you, sorry, mate.
I was thinking you actually all look like you're quite set up for the tech, you know?
Well, I've been working like for the last week and a half, pretty much for 12 hours a day or so, just getting people
Yeah,
all the equipment they need, getting
yeah.
them set up. It's been good actually. I think we'll hopefully come out of this with some a lot. I mean, everyone's saying that, but for our team, I would say that we'll be significantly advanced in our online skills. You ready now, Keegan?
Yeah, mate. You can hear me now, eh? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
Adam's been a
Keegan.
yeah, I've got my set up in the garage, so that's why I'm rugged up, so I can still wave to the neighbours as they walk past during their rainy day walks and runs. So Adam's been an absolute godsend for us, being able to set us up. So I'm just fully aware that not everyone's lucky enough to have their own little Adam. But one thing that's really interested me over this very, very short process, point in time is all the groups that are popping up organically that are kind of looking to serve their own connection needs. So obviously one of the things that have ballooned up is the NZ Bear Hunt. You know, how we still maintaining some form of, I suppose, unspoken contact between each other as we're passing through. But then I'm also part of a NZ sport and play group, and there are a bunch of kind of regional sports trusts and things that are looking at, okay, how do we still keep conversations, professional conversations going? They're looking at things like how do we facilitate home play? How do we facilitate things like, these types of Zoom chats or Google Hangouts for still having kids interacting with each other digitally? And then being able to kind of cast an eye overseas as well and see what people are up to. And it's been quite interesting to see just in such a short amount of time that like what was spoken before by Craig, like how it's just gone boom, 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 boom in terms of how much increased levels of isolation have affected people.
Yeah.
So just as some creative solutions are coming about, like, kind of meeting on each other's kind of near each other's front porches or whatever, we're then pushed away from that and then pushed away from that further. So now we're at a stage where we're completely digital, really. And so how's that kind of operating? There's a artist resiliency group that's been set up that's keeping all the art sector kind of in the loop as updates are changing. Things like support subsidies and structures are being set up. Creative New Zealand's changing over time. How are people engaging with their audiences? So like I've just posted up a bit of a trial of a virtual art tour today to just kind of test the waters and see if that's a viable option for artists to do virtual exhibitions from their home studio or something.
Wow.
So
yeah,
like a visual artist version of what we're seeing with a lot of musicians and things like that. So it's really been cool to keep stock of what's going on across all these little hyper local kind of communities. And I suppose the good thing about all of this is it's reaching audiences wider than their own hapori or community really quickly, because it's got a purely digital presence. So, things like, this morning, just seeing the at-home play challenges that Woohoo Timaru, their Facebook page is set up. And that's something that anyone across the country or globe can take part of. So this week, they've got the Home Hut Challenge. So make your own little hut in your backyard or in your home, post a photo and challenge your friends and family. So still getting kids active, still getting them engaged, but also connecting them to the rest of the world. So yeah, it's very uplifting to see in a time of need.
If I may, I might just, Keegan speaking, a couple more things I've thought of. I guess just firstly, that idea of how quickly things have changed. You know, lots of new initiatives coming left, right, and centre. But I'm somewhat concerned, I guess, by the fact that that pace of change has left us in a position where there's certain parts of our communities or our that we haven't had time, or haven't had time to, you know, reach out to, and you know, while we still could meet in person, sort of take them through some basic steps about how to, you know, get online and, you know, set their headphones up, or, you know, what have you. And you know, while many of us are now kind of constantly doing different, you know, coming in and out of different spaces, and using different apps and talking to different people, and there's that kind of constant ability to engage. I think for, you know, there's some group that we're probably not even aware how many people are in a space where they're not really able to engage at all. And then there's a sort of, I would say, some, maybe, you know, 20, 30, 40% of people who are engaging, but it's through very structured kind of, you know, the team meeting that's at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and then that's their kind of little interaction, their only interaction with other people for the entire day. So what I've been trying to do is facilitate, you know, opportunities for people to be kind of just constantly able to interact with others as they would when they're in their, you know, like a month ago, come into the office and there's just other people around, and they don't have to set up a meeting or specifically ask someone. There's other people there in these
How have
digital
you done
spaces.
that, Adam, when you're facilitating that? What have been, you know, your top 2 or 3 things that you've put in place?
Well, I mean, the main one is just getting the entire our entire sort of unit in the council onto a platform called Discord, which is
Wasn't it a gaming platform?
yeah, exactly. So it's developed to sort of sit in the background while you play video games, right? But the advantage of it is that people are just in there kind of throughout the day. There's people coming and going, and so if I checked it now, I'm sure that there's sort of 2-3 people in a voice channel, and then there's a whole range of other people that are just on that sidebar that I can see. Oh, he's around. I might just ask, rather than maybe having to send an email and asking a question about such and such a thing, and maybe, you know, you don't hear back for 3 hours, and then, you know, you get a short bit of text. So I mean, that's one element. I think the likes of the bears thing is sort of similar in a way, in that it's not something that you have to kind of schedule, or, you know, because I think people will increasingly find themselves in a position to be able to, you know, schedule that meeting with their whānau or you know, their colleagues, and, you know, at 3 o'clock we're going to use this platform and meet. But what I'm quite keen on is exploring how we can create more opportunities for people who maybe don't have those skills, or do have access to some platforms, but, you know, how can just be getting that human connection.
Sure. So Discord's like working in an open plan office.
That's the idea.
Yeah. So you can turn around to the person next to you, but you're using Discord, and that's great, eh? Because I've heard people leaving their Zoom open, but I thought, well, that's not going to work for me because I've got scheduled Zoom meetings, but I could actually have Discord and Zoom, start using multiple applications.
Yeah, and it's a little bit more, what I'm hoping as we kind of transition a little bit more is Discord's a little bit more kind of passive. You know, you're not having your camera on by default, or you know, and you've got both the ability to have text and voice conversations. So it's kind of, you know, I might just send off a few little messages here, you know, via text, or drop in a GIF or a video link for whoever is interested to look at, or I'll jump into a voice channel and start having a chat with whoever's there. But it's not a, you know, like I can do that while I'm also working, or doing something else. Whereas you know, like if I'm going to be face to face with someone else, you know, I might be kind of, you know, scratching myself. You know, it's a little bit more kind of formal.
Oh, I like that. I like that. Hey, Bronwyn or Tasha, did you want to bring yourself into the conversation, have reflections?
I'll just say a quick hi. So I'm Monica, joining in from Link Upper Clutha, which is basically a not-for-profit sort of community group, looking at sort of supporting the community in any way. Currently, obviously, we have reshifted our focus from Neighbours Day, Aotearoa, to being more supportive from a connection perspective within the community, and basically now shifting towards messaging out beyond the connection message, but more the well-being message. And we've just had quite a strong directive from our local council just in the last 24 hours, which is great. They've put our little pamphlet, which has got some good messaging, but also some very good links into if you're needing help, register here. If you can offer help, register here. These are the types of health things to keep an eye out for. So they've actually created quite a nice one-stop shop point of reference, I suppose. And we have decided just through a little conference meeting this morning that we will wait and follow them 2 steps behind, only because we don't want to muddy the water with messages or overload messages. But once more specific messages come out from not so much their response area, but more their recovery area of work that they'll be leading into, if we can repackage that using grassroots language, then that same message will come across, but with more grassroots language. Because what we're noticing at the moment is a lot of this messaging is coming from either government or council level, which is perfect and well driven and well organised. But if we're 2 steps behind that, we can repackage it with more a local voice, and that's more the role that we think we will play effectively in. Yeah, so that's what we're looking at the moment, just looking at the messages that will go out, both online but also radio and, you know, across the usual sort of campaign type formats.
Awesome.
How do you do radio, Bronwyn?
Sorry, Sissy, say again?
How are you doing radio?
So we've got the local, we've got ad libs. So we've been refreshing those every 2 weeks. In fact, every 3 days more recently, just because of the change in climate. But as of Monday, we'll be putting out another little message, refreshing that ad lib. So we already had a campaign signed in with our local radio, which is Radio Wanaka. And we have interview time slots as well, which is great because we can just sort of prompt everything up and refresh it. Radio Wanaka is obviously a local station, but it hooks into the national sort of network of systems as well. And being an essential service, they keep daily online, obviously. Yeah.
Cool.
Just to echo that, I think I've got a background in communications. I think yeah, the language is really, really important. You know, obviously we're getting clear, concise, good updates from the government and everything, but you know, taking that kind of local approach and, you know, speaking in the kind of language that you that your community is used to using, I think is really, really important. So yeah, that's one.
I think you're right. And it's not just the language, but it's all, you know, it is multi-language. I mean, we're predominantly European down here with English, and but thinking up more north, you know, where most of you guys are, whether it's Manawatu or Auckland beyond, you know, it's very multicultural. So to have that different language translated as well will be really important. But more so for us locally here, we've got some voices on the radio that are often, you know, giving sports reports or local sort of welfare reports or this or that, and using those same identities so that the community is used to that voice and used to hearing a good solid message, which is quite often evidence-based. You know, so just using the same voices, using the same tone, using it what fits our community a little bit more. Yep.
Yeah, I think it's important that we use local leaders so that we're not introducing new ideas. We're using the people who already have the networks to activate what's happening. And, you know, I'm guessing, you know, when I'm thinking about Pacifica or Māori, to be able to, for them to be able to use their own networks, not to need you know, someone like us to come in and think that we're able to give out global messages. And that's the whole idea about being local, is that we can change those messages to fit our people that we know. Yeah. So, you know, I'm living up here, but rurally, it's a bit different up here. It's not quite the same as if I was in Auckland. Hey, Tasha's just said to us, sorry, I'm having some issues with my computer. You can probably all see this. She's from the Elizabeth Knox Home and Hospital, and they're trying to find creative ways for residents to still be able to connect with the community, volunteers, as well as their families, at a time when no one's able to come and visit.
Can I just jump in there? I've got my mother and father at Somerset in Hawke's Bay, and last week I was just ensuring that she had FaceTime on her phone, which of course she doesn't, and nor does she have Skype on her computer because it's so old, it doesn't even have a camera. So my suggestion to her, knowing that she was only one within a retirement home or a small retirement community in this situation, that the actual establishment creates a little lounge area where families can Skype in. So the actual establishment creates the Skype ability on their computers, and families can sort of book in a time slot. The elderly people can wheeled into the room and actually sort of communicate through that common Skype or Zoom or whatever platform, because most of these elderly don't have the technology, they don't have the knowledge, they don't have even the Wi-Fi, they don't have the ability. But if the retirement homes, for example, could set that up, timetable it in, that's one form of connectivity.
And just to sort of expand on that, another just top of head idea is maybe if they encourage some kind of like a ritual or something like that, in terms of, you know, when you book in a time, you know, do you both make a cup of tea? And, you know, so someone is drinking tea at home and the resident is having a cup of tea as well. So there's that kind of shared thing, or, you know, they talk about a specific thing, or they, you know, do something which they would have done in person, but, you know, try and bring that online, just to add that sort of extra layer of connection there.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to add in something that I just found out today, just before my introduction. We're working with, well, we're not working with them, but there's a community worker somewhere, Leal from Community Waitakere. She's actually organising volunteer phone calls with age concerns. So she's partnering up with an organisation to sort of get volunteers to call up. So if someone has free time during the day, they can just sign up and be a part of that calling list. And it's probably 2 to 3 calls a day to 2 to 3 different rest homes or individuals. So that's something that we're doing out here in West Auckland.
Cool. Where are you from, B?
So I'm from Healthy Families Waitakere, and the only reason I've been joined into this conversation was actually we have a collaborative marketplace sort of ropu, and it's with Craig from Massey Matters, Shalima from Community Waitakere, a few others from Eco Matters, and we're all focused on the whole, how do we get communities more socially connected. And one aspect that we're really looking at as a tool would be placemaking, resource sharing, and play. And really, those are the things we need right now. So I've just sort of been called into this. I'm the play systems innovator. So from Healthy Families Waitakere under Sport Waitakere. And I think Keegan was talking about that huge partnership overall with like RSTs, etc., and play professionals. And I'm a part of that. I'm also a part of the International Play Association. So I'm...
Sorry, what's an RST?
A recreational sports trust, a regional sports trust.
Regional,
yeah. Yeah, no, that's cool.
Yeah, so I'm part of that. I'm also a part of the International Play Association, and I sit on the committee. So there's a lot of things that I'm trying to connect in, because what we really need right now in terms of my perspective is how do we still enable play to happen, but more so in that localized level of social distancing, and still be social. I actually hate the word social distancing. It's physical distancing, really, in my regard. Like social connectedness still needs to happen. So basically some of the work we're doing at Sport Waitakere at the moment is we're working with Auckland Council on a game called Goose Chase. And it's technically, you know, your scavenger hunt, but how do you do it virtually? And in the COVID context, it's how do you do things at home? So show us this, take a photo of you making a fort, or take a photo of the sunrise at your house, or like, it's just got all these missions and it's connected a few people. I think the last time I checked, it has like 200 people signed up to it in Auckland, which is really good because it was just released yesterday. But other than that, the work that I'm sort of really focusing in and honing into is I've noticed that there's a lot of pop-up sort of neighborhoods that are coming in, and I'm calling them micro communities. So for instance, my own street has made their own little virtual online community, and it was all like led by someone I hadn't met before, and because I've lived on the street forever, but it was really interesting how people have just gone about and done their own thing regardless.
How did that happen then, B? Like, if you didn't know them, how did they get hold of you, and what platform have they used to make this micro community?
So at the moment, because it was actually sort of an idea that I had, but then I had like a little curious search before I did it, and it was already set up since Sunday afternoon, and I started asking the lady, like, how did you go about this? How did you set it up? What did you do? And apparently all she did was door knocking. A couple of weeks ago, I think she was just ahead of the game, and she started putting in flyers in everybody's mailboxes. It's funny because like the communication in my house was poor, so I had no idea about it, and then I found out about it. But another street that I know of that has done this as well is my manager's street, and they've always been a connected community, and I think it was just just last weekend they did the same thing, knocking on doors, giving out flyers. Obviously now that we're in lockdown, I don't really see that happening, so I'm thinking there might be just a potential of a street sign, or just something on the street to sort of let others know while they're going outside and walking around houses that, hey, there's something going on. I do worry about the people that don't have, because we're using Facebook group at the moment. I do worry about the people who can't have access to the internet on our street, or don't have a Facebook account. Also, just the idea, our CEO had a big talk today, and she was basically saying like the pandemic doesn't create inequities, but it starts revealing them amongst the community. So it's something to like really take in while we're doing this Neighbours Day, and how does this look like in a COVID lockdown situation too. But yeah, I've just got like all these ideas buzzing. But at the moment, I just really I think I need to just slow down because it's like all information overload. Yeah, so that's my introduction for now.
I think a lot of us need to probably take most of the weekend away from, the constant messages that we're getting through, like, from our colleagues and friends and stuff, like, to help out with things, and just kind of take some time to let it all sink in and reconnect with the people that we love, and rather than
my 4th Zoom today, and honestly it's like he was saying about the Discord thing, like we've got Microsoft Teams set up, so I've got something to reply here, Zoom to reply here, I've got emails, and then I've got my personal social stuff. I think it's just, I think it's one of those things that people really do need to disconnect.
Yeah, I think that's important.
That social stuff.
Yeah, I think because many of us on this call are probably going to be at the nexus of particular, groups of professional or, personal webs. And so, I mean, it's just like I've been having sort of 12 hours a day for the last week and a half. I worked all through last weekend. It's my plan to have a beer this afternoon with some friends, and then kind of tune out and just let it all kind of you know, marinate, I guess, and then kind of come back on Monday with sort of, all right, this is what I'm
I
going to
think that's really important. I don't know about other people, but I've sort of started losing track of days already, what day it is. I was planning to do these kind of Massey lockdown updates every day, but I think I'm gonna maybe just do like one per weekend. So do every weekday and then one per weekend, and just try and keep that sense of kind of normalcy, just for my own sanity, I guess. And give other people a chance to sort of relax a little bit as well.
What I'm really loving at the moment is that there's no cars on the road, and I can feel safe as a person who rides their bike everywhere. Like, it's just 10 times better. And then I've noticed that families are actually starting to play, although not together in like as a community, but I've been seeing more people going outside that I don't actually see in my neighborhood, or, you know, and it's just an interesting time. Like, there's like silver linings to things. So my workmate works in the food space, and she was talking about how all the vegetable plants and seeds and seedlings have all been sold out in the last few days before the lockdown. And it was just because people are now wanting to eat healthier, grow healthy kai. Like, it's just like there's silver linings to this as well, and it's kind of a good perspective to see.
I agree. I mean, I was out last night riding with my daughter, who is really scared of riding. And from there, what I saw was all these empty streets, and I'm quite keen to get out there soon with a camera and take shots of all these streets, because when you look at them without cars, you then understand the allocation that's given to cars, but also
sea of car parking on Church Street at the moment. It's just
the things that can be asked back to the community is like, are these the streets that you want? You know, and if you could have reimagined them, what would they look like? So that's my sort of thinking in my head bubbling away at the moment.
I think that's really exciting to have this opportunity for us to actually be able to see how things could be used once that sort of dominant thinking has been removed. You know, have we got the shops in the right place? Do we need big shopping malls? You know, do we need smaller groupings of shops? You know, I wish I had a bike. I think I'd be out there riding my bike right now, but I don't have one. It's a bit sad, you know, like what, you know, we've got 2 cars in our driveway and no bikes.
Off you up one to use.
Dave, you must be in heaven though, as an urban designer. You must just be in heaven, because you're, you know, a bit like B, your mind just must be buzzing about the what ifs, or how could we change, or what could we do differently when we actually, you know, step back out in as a, you know, an integrated community again.
I'm probably like the rest of my colleagues here on this platform now, just getting my head around this whole change, getting my family settled, all that sort of stuff. But definitely, yeah, the cogs are starting to turn about. I now have this window to look at public realm that's mainly void of vehicles, and B is perhaps, you know, it doesn't have the public life in it either. So that they're just, to me, they're just physical spaces with not much sort of, I guess, physical life going on. So it's the opportunity to get that whole sort of series of streets and places perhaps a bit documented, because I can't ask those same questions of the community when you've always got cars sitting there by shops, and the business owners think that everyone arrives by cars to spend, or those sort of things. So, you know, I haven't got complete answers going on. I'm tuning, I'm asking questions. So it's definitely a bit of a fact-finding process for me at the moment, as far as
Dave,
what are the questions that I need to raise and ask.
Dave, I wonder if there is an opportunity for the you know, people in their communities to, if there's an opportunity to sort of crowdsource some of that information. Do you have a mechanism for asking people to take a photo of their streets or whatever?
Yeah, I think that, I've discussed that with my manager yesterday. It was another example in our city at the moment is we've got this amazing botanical garden. It's the only botanical garden that I can find as a clear example where we still allow cars to drive through the middle of it. And it's currently closed. It's locked. Gates are shut. It's closed. But people are using it to do their daily exercise. And so what I'm thinking is, how do we start asking questions back to the community to say, have you enjoyed using this space in this way? What does that mean for you going forward? Because, you know, our role is to try and convince powers above us that perhaps asking people to come to the botanical garden and get up and walk around it is a better outcome, but that's a political challenge. So they're the sort of things that are playing out in my head at the moment.
And I'm wondering, I mean, Adam might know more about this, but there are platforms, aren't there, like, is it Social Pinpoint or Social and Engagement HQ, where you actually could have the maps up there now and saying, now you're in lockdown, let's place ourselves with comments about how we use these areas, or what we notice now that there's no cars or public life, you know? Do any of you have those? I mean, I only just started looking into them.
We do have Social Pinpoint at PNCC, and we've used it for a couple of consultation processes. So yeah, it's a tool that's sitting there that we could employ in the right way. It's probably, you know, I'm not an expert in all this sort of online engagement, so but we've got that tool sitting there that I know of.
I mean, this is the time, isn't it, to say what are the tools, how can we use them, and perhaps even in ways they weren't intended to be used.
Yeah.
And you might find that people sort of have the time now to, you know, to think about this kind of stuff and to actually do stuff. I mean, I do have a bit of a background, in some slight background in that kind of engagement piece, and yeah, it's you know, often there's a barrier to, you know, if it takes 20 minutes to do a survey or something like that, people are going to just, you know, not do it. But then, you know, people might have more time for something like that, you know, during this period.
And usually they're going to have a camera on them, right, to upload, make a comment. So yeah, that's something we'll probably, once we've finished today's meeting, that we can discuss as a team to sort of say what other tools we've got to deploy pretty fast. Yeah,
I'm going to look into Discord, actually. I remember my son's using it. That's what I thought was a game.
I'm new to it. And I'm learning something about it every day. I think it's been a great channel that Adam's been able to get us switched into. And I feel definitely connected to my unit, as opposed to having to jump into teams and sort of talk in different channels that feel a little bit disjointed and segregated. So it's easier and fun.
Is there anyone else who'd like to bring themselves in and have a little chat for the last 5 minutes? Shalima?
Hey everybody. I live out at Karikari on the west coast, and I work for Community Waitakere part-time as a community developer. And so I've been really super busy, like some of you, working, you know, 11-hour days and working on my weekend, and I'm absolutely kind of exhausted and ready to spend some time with the family. But it's been kind of nice, because I think me being busy doing this has let my family sort of settle in without mum saying, right, do your schoolwork and creating routines and clean the house. So it's kind of had an upside. They've had a bit of a break. So I work in New Windsor, which is an urban, really diverse urban community, and I live in Karikari, which is a small kind of west coast community. And in Karikari, I was holding a piece of resilience work that we were doing. We were developing a resilience plan and partway through developing a resilience network. So with this happening, I've kind of been, it's kind of forcing me to spend that time actually finishing that piece of work off. But I feel a bit stressed, because it feels like I'm holding it. And so I've had lots of people kind of coming to me. So I'm working really hard to try and facilitate finishing that piece of work off and getting it out to the community. So what we've got nearly ready to go out is a network of street connectors. So we've divided Karikari up into 7 different areas, and each area has got a a group, a little resilience neighbourhood group, and that includes some social connectors and some checkers. So if we have a disaster like this or another sort of disaster, those checkers quickly get out and see, is everybody all right, who needs what sort of help. And in peacetime, I don't know what the word is for that, but between disasters, the social connectors are working, developing a database of everybody in their kind of area, and creating Neighbours Day initiatives and that sort of thing. And then we have another, we've got a school fire station and a surf club, and so they become welfare centres if needed in emergencies. And then we have a next level up that takes that information from the neighbourhoods and in an emergency can report to civil defence. So civil defence can get that information really fast about what's needed in our community. And if we needed to organise because we're the last place anybody cares about in an emergency because we're so far out, we have a team of people to sort things out basically if need be. And it's really interesting because New Windsor's the urban community where I'm working, and we're sort of in the midway through developing a community organisation there. But so I'm looking at setting up a similar thing there, a network of street connectors. And I managed on Wednesday to get some resources. I went in for a mad printing dash, so we've managed to get enough flyers for every house in New Windsor that's now in New Windsor. So I'm kind of coordinating a team of people through social media and the contacts I had to deliver these flyers out to people. And there's kind of a general one, which is advertising the Facebook groups I've been busy kind of setting up. And then there's one to offer support to your neighbours, or phone calls and stuff like that. So people that want can pick them up from this person's house and then deliver them to their neighbours. And then another one is for people who volunteer to be street connectors, can pick up this other form which sort of says, these, I'm your local street connector. Here are my contact details. If you'd like to be part of this network, put your details on the back and pop it in my letterbox, or contact me via email. So yeah, it's been quite nice seeing, my people in New Windsor saying, yes, I'll be happy to deliver flyers, and those flyers are going out, which is putting us in contact with people who we hadn't been before. So it's quite interesting seeing how it's so different in the two different areas, but that's kind of where I'm at the moment.
Yeah, because it's important to remember, isn't it, that there is an online world, but there will be people who are offline, and so it's important, the kind of messaging that we're trying to get across is don't forget about the offline people, buddy up with them, once a day, give someone a phone call if that's the only mechanism they've got. Or I think one of you mentioned, maybe it was B, about putting posters up. I'm trying to convince my partner to let me write a series of posters and put them up outside our house, even if you're just saying, hello from number 10, so we have to use more than just what's online to keep us connected.
I just had a random idea, and I don't know if I should say this without talking to council first, but I'm just thinking, what about on rubbish bin collection day, whether we, put a message on their rubbish bin or something like that, so that people walking by are seeing that, or they decorate their bins in some way. I don't know, just randomly. I probably need to talk to the council about the logistics of doing that. Bea's shaking her head over there.
I wait.
Yeah.
I think that's a great idea, Craig. Because you could just a bit of blackboard paint, they're not going to know.
Yeah.
Most bins are black these days. And then just chalk a message each day.
Chalk a message, yeah. I mean, if people are going out and about on walks and things like that, there's going to be, they might pass dozens of bins,
People are chalking, aren't they, on footpaths?
Yeah, I was actually biking the other day, and I saw these kids, they were just drawing messages on the footpath with chalk, and I was like, darn, that's something that I forgot to get. I forgot to get chalk, because it's an easy to do thing on the pavement. but like even a simple like riddle a day for people to pass by to just, you know, get them out of the thinking space of what's happening.
So it's interesting. A few people have mentioned the teddy bear thing, which I think is great. On the first day that we did this Massey lockdown announcement, I had about 3 or 4 people send me the link to the story about the teddy bears thing. So a post for day number 2, our challenge was, you know, get bears in windows basically, and you know, we got about 12 to 15 people commented and posted pictures of their bear up in their window and did all this kind of stuff. And we, as kind of a value add, we offered to put all those locations onto the national map. So that's kind of, so that's kind of an example of a challenge that we're sort of doing with this. Someone who did that contacted me today and said, hey, can we do something similar around Easter time? You know, could we have people decorate their driveways and draw Easter eggs on the ground, or, you know, put something on their letterbox, something like that. So, which I thought was fantastic. And that was, again, something that I was hoping to get out of this as well, is that, you know, the community is sort of generating these ideas too. It's not just falling on me or the team that I work with to get those. So.
And it's walkable, Like I like the idea of doing a walkable Easter egg hunt where people have done different Easter eggs in their driveways, but you're encouraging people to stay local, because that's the big thing, We don't want movement of this virus.
Yeah, absolutely. So it would be, you know, away from the house, away from people, but still in that kind of public facing space. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, I mean, the challenge is getting people to know about this. So the bear hunt worked because that was on national television, but it's the people that we really need to be reaching are all those people that aren't connected online and are stuck at home with their kids in tiny apartments and, you know, and financially under stress. So it's like, how can we, and that really needs to be locally, I guess, by actually putting the signs out in the streets to reach those people. Yeah, it's pretty scary because it's absolutely wonderful for someone like me and my family, because we've got a cool place, we live by the beach, we've got all the art things, but it's like those families must be going absolutely nuts thinking they've got a month of this, say, and not having the money and not knowing where the money's going to come from.
Yeah, and I guess that's what I was trying to clumsily say before, is we must keep this really local, and let local leaders who know their communities get the messaging right for that community. And even if we were just looking at groups of, you know, 8 or 10 households in a street knowing each other, that's how we're going to stay connected and spread the message. You know, if we know who's in our street and where there isn't a lot of money or toys,
right,
you know, craft ideas, or then we're much more likely to be able to respond to it, because we no longer can get in. I love this. We can no longer get into our car and drive across the neighborhood, can we? You know, so it is about being very local.
Yeah, I think I absolutely agree with that. I think that when the big stuff starts shutting down, then that's the time to sort of focus on like the hyper local, so, you know, your neighborhood level, and again, that sort of walkable distance. Yeah, I think that's, and if we can sort of encourage pockets of that around, then, you know, you can identify the people that are in those that are keen to do that for their pocket. They're sort of your ambassador for that little pocket of the community, and they might inspire others to set up things, and then eventually it spreads to the whole sort of suburb or city or whatever.
What we were doing for our comms teams was that we would go on the hunt to find these micro communities that are doing really good things, and then have a platform to sort of plug this out as a marketing thing, saying like, we've done this, like, connected in with your neighbors, look at this neighborhood, they've done XYZ, and then just having that sort of broadcasted out just for them to see. But I do worry about the non-virtual community, really.
And in these communities with the lower socioeconomic groups, they don't even necessarily have telephones, and when they do have a cell phone, basically the minutes run out very fast, especially if they're in self-isolation, so they end up with not even having phones, and then they're trying to think, well, how do I access the support that's out there? And if they don't have technology and they're stuck in their home, how do they even know how to access support services? So it's like we almost need support services going out into streets and being there so that people can come out and stand far away and talk to them or something. But for anyone that is working in those sorts of communities that have databases and networks, I think calling people on your networks, that you've got contacts for, and just seeing how they're going is a really awesome way to connect with people. Eva, who's in Glenavon, that's what she's been doing. She's got phone numbers for a whole bunch of people, and she's just going through and calling them and finding out how they're going. And they're finding that really amazing, because that's like, oh, somebody is there. It's, it's kind of reassuring. But these Pacific Island, low socioeconomic Pacific Island and Māori communities, people are really, really scared, much more scared than, we kind of are. I think they're actually really worried about this, and are feeling quite terrified.
And I think it goes back to a comment you made earlier, Sissy, about buddying up. So if those that do have technology or the resource or the time or the capability, they can outreach and support. And it goes back to what you're saying, of even going back to that phone call, but it's about buddying up right from the beginning to try and find the inequity, who has the ability over here, or the technology or the time or the capability, and where is it that doesn't, in your little micro communities.
And I think as people that are in that kind of community sector, I think it's important that we, I guess, keep in touch with the people that are providing those services. So the people that are from food banks and are delivering food, or whoever it might be. I think, keeping regular contact with them and just sort of seeing what the needs are and offering what support we can, or ideas, or whatever. I think that's really important as well.
Well, coming to the end of our time together, I reckon we've gone really big, looking at spaces now without cars and people, and what the possibilities are. I really like that idea, this window to be looking at on the world differently, right down to worrying about how to stay in contact with people who are offline. And I think we've covered everything in between. I've learned about a new platform. I'm going to try this Discord now. I'm also going to go and think about social pinpoint, and maybe even just trialing in a really small area, using that for some of the things that I think Dave was talking about. And I appreciate and trust all the local people who are leading, appropriately for their communities, and want to do whatever we can to support them to do their work in the way that they think is best. And I thank you, Craig, for coming and opening up this Zoom and talking about the work you're doing in Massey Matters. And are there any final words before we say goodbye?
No,
but not forever. We can stay in touch.
Just want to say thank you for having me, Sissy, and thanks to everyone for coming along. And I think it's been a really sort of constructive chat.
Yeah.
I wonder if there is an opportunity to have a separate discussion, or one of these workshops or something, which is more specifically tailored towards the non-digital side of that. And I wonder if there's a conversation to be had there. And yeah, I just wanted to also just plug, get on Facebook and check out Massey Matters, Massey Lockdown. We've got some interesting stuff on the cards, so yeah, it would be cool to sort of,
cool. Okay. Well, thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Until we meet again, take care, do good work.
Cool. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.